All right, in this video, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm sharing 7 life-changing lessons from doing 75 hard. So if you're not familiar, 75 hard is a mental toughness challenge. And when I first heard about this challenge, I gotta give a shout out to 2 people. Number 1 is Joe Grella, and number 2 is Bob Martin, 2 people that I connected with from Instagram that have become friends. They had done it and they talked about those life-changing benefits. And at the time, I was like, you know what? No, it's not for me. I've already done hard things before. I don't really feel like I need to do this. But then I looked at the website, and the website described it as it's like doing an Ironman for your brain. And whenever I read those words, I was completely hooked because I just love pushing myself, seeing what I'm capable of, and sharing what comes out of it. And so basically, what I want to do in today's video is share what my experience was, the 7 lessons that I learned, and how you can apply it as well. So with kind of like that story, the actual challenge itself consists of a couple of rules. You need to do 2 45-minute workouts a day. One needs to be outside. You need to follow a diet. You need to do that every single day as well. You need to read 10 pages from a self-help or professional development book. You need to take a progress picture, and you need to drink a gallon of water a day. So it's very specific. You did it or you did not, and you do it every single day for 75 days. So as you can imagine, there is some growth that comes from that. And what I want to do is I want to share these 7 lessons. And the first one is all about boredom. So boredom is part of the process. And if you're not ready for it, it could be something that knocks you out from a long-term goal. So let me explain. When I first started this challenge, I was so pumped about it. I was like excited. I had a group of people. We were texting about it almost daily, right? And I would say that excitement lasted for a good week, maybe 10 days. And then a couple of weeks after that, it kind of became the new routine and the new norm. And I think it was about 30 days into it, I started thinking, you know what? I don't really want to do this anymore. I was just not as excited about it because it started to become boring. It started to become something that I had to do. And I actually started thinking about shifting my goal to something else because I have a half Ironman that's coming up. I'm like, maybe I should just like focus on the half Ironman instead. And that's when I realized the real reason why this challenge exists is to teach you that lesson, is to teach you that when you're going after something big, if that's a physical goal, if that's something in business, there's going to be a time when it just gets boring. And you need to just be ready for that, and you need to accept that, and you need to be ready for it, right? So I know that there's this Kobe Bryant quote where he talks about how the best never get bored with the basics. And that's exactly, like, I've said that quote before, but now I really understand it. And I recognize boredom is part of the process. And this is something that has thrown me off of my other goals in the past, because in the past I would get super excited about one thing. And then after a couple of weeks or months, I would just get bored with it. And then I would find something else and I would get super excited about that. And yeah, I just think that boredom is just part of the process and you got to be ready for it. It's an experimental setup, by the way. There was a truck that just drove by. I don't know if you can hear that, but we're going to keep it rolling. So boredom is part of the process. The second thing that I learned was all about that voice inside your head. And the voice inside your head determines everything. And it's so subtle, you don't even realize it. So in a challenge like this, when it comes to the rules and all the specific things that you have to do, I started to become so much more aware of that little voice in my head that is telling me do we really need to do another workout? Do I really need to take a progress picture today? Do I really need to drink a full gallon of water, or can I just drink 100 ounces? Do I really need to read this book, the physical book, instead of just listen to the audiobook? So I started paying attention to that little voice in my head, and a lot of times that little voice in my head wanted to play small, wanted to procrastinate, wanted to push things off, wanted to just say it's not that important to do it today. And through this challenge, I just became a lot more aware of that voice, and I became a lot more aware of how that little voice is kind of playing small. And that's not at all how I want to show up when I'm running my business, when I'm going after big goals and anything like that. So the second thing that I learned is that little voice inside your head is so subtle, but it determines almost everything that we do. So third lesson is what I would call food is fuel, not a reward. So the diet portion of this was one of the parts that I thought was going to be like really hard for me, because what I ended up doing was just removing sweets entirely from my diet. So I'm the type of person that I work out a lot and I work out hard. And so I'm like, you know what? I can eat ice cream. I love dessert. I know Alex Hormozy says never skip dessert. I would say that I used to agree with that. I also think that I'm the type of person where I'm like, I just always feel like I've had a sweet tooth, and I have a massive sweet tooth. I've said that so many times, almost like it's like my identity. And what I realized by removing sweets entirely is within the first couple of days, I realized that it wasn't the actual food that I was craving, it was actually a reward. So let me explain. I noticed that I would start to crave chocolate or ice cream or cookies or cake or cupcakes later in the week on like a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, and at night after dinner. And as I kind of realized, oh, I can't really eat these sweets right now, but why do I even want that? What I realized is I wanted a reward for like working hard. I wanted like a pat on the back. I feel like I've been making really good progress and I deserve it. And so I realized that to me, the sugar and the sweets and the cravings were actually a reward. And I almost thought of food as a reward for making progress and working hard. And I thought, like, where did this come from? It started to make sense because, like, when I was growing up playing sports, what do you do after a game? You always like go and get ice cream or something like that. And I feel like it's probably tracing back from that. But as I started to think about what do I want my relationship with food to be like, I don't want it to be food is a reward. I want food to be fuel. And so throughout this whole challenge, the past 75 days, I removed sweets, but I started to think of food as fuel. And I started thinking about what is the purpose of food? It is to nourish us and give us energy so that we can do the things that we want to do. It is literally fuel. And so I started to think about that as a big takeaway for me. Number 4, this challenge will reveal your weaknesses. And that was a big thing for me. I think about when I had the hardest point of the challenge was when I was watching both of my girls. My wife was out of town for like 5 or 6 days. And it was in those 5 days when I was watching both of the girls that I had probably like the closest thing to a breakdown. I was just getting so stressed out and so overwhelmed one morning because I hadn't gotten my workout in. I knew I had 2 more workouts. I knew I had a busy day, and I knew that I didn't really have a lot of support. So I was going to have to get a workout in outside and still watch my girls. And I just felt like I was running out of time. And I just got so overwhelmed that I realized the whole like reason why I was overwhelmed was because I didn't plan ahead of time. I think I even realized this like issue where I was gonna have to be watching my girls and working out, and I had like a client call, and I had to like push back the client call, which is very unprofessional, but I had to do it. And I just realized that the overwhelm that I was experiencing was because I didn't really plan well enough in advance. And time management is huge with this challenge. Like the only way you're going to be successful is if you actually actually plan your workouts, plan when you're going to do things, plan all of your meetings, and like coordinate that. And I realized that my time management was good, maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10, but it wasn't a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 when it really mattered most. And so it was through this hard part of the challenge that I realized the overwhelm is a problem for me, but that's created when I just don't plan ahead and manage my time. So my time management needed to get so much better. And through this challenge, I took that a lot more seriously, and it's made a huge difference. So this challenge will reveal your weaknesses, which is one of the best parts, because then you're aware of them and you can work on it. And it's only when you're really stretched to your limits through a challenge like this that you can discover those weaknesses. You don't, honestly, like, we just don't get tested enough when you're just sitting around and going through a typical week. And how are you going to be tested in a basic environment like that? It's only when you put yourself in an extreme challenge that you really get tested. So it will reveal your weaknesses. Then lesson 5, the work is the reward. So as I was getting closer to the end of the challenge, day 50, 55, 60, a few people reached out to me and they were like, hey, so like you're getting close to the end. How are you going to celebrate? And like, are you going to get a drink? Oh, I forgot to actually mention that. No alcohol either during this challenge. But people are like, oh, are you going to get a drink? Are you going to go out to eat? Are you going to take a trip? Are you going to do all of these things? And I started thinking about, like, how do I want to reward myself for completing this challenge? Because I knew I was going to finish it. And I started thinking, like, most of the ways that we reward ourselves don't actually serve us. And so what is the actual reward from this challenge? And I started thinking about it, and I realized doing the actual work of the challenge is the reward. Being able to exercise multiple times and like nourish my body and learn through personal development, that is the true reward. There is no like finish line with this. It is like putting myself in these uncomfortable situations and learning what I'm capable of. That is the reward. It's not like something after you cross like the finish line or after you finish it. Doing the actual work, doing the process, being a part of it, that was the actual reward for me. So I remember, because I had to do 2 workouts a day, a lot of times my second workout would have to be after the girls went to bed. So I'd have to go for a run at like 8:30. Initially, I didn't enjoy that, but what I realized through doing it is that I actually really enjoyed kind of the peaceful night runs, and I learned to enjoy that part of the process. So that is number 5. The work is the reward. And number 6 is what I would call exceptional situations, exceptional results. So through the 75 days, it was tough, but you just kind of focus on the actual task at hand. I started the challenge on December 26th of 2023. I finished the challenge on March 10th of 2024. The day after the challenge, March 11th, I had my biggest day in business ever in the 3 or 4 years of my business, the biggest day ever. So was it because of what I did in that one specific day? No, but it was everything that I had cumulatively done the days before and leading up to it. And I really believe that when you put yourself, this is a Jesse Itzler quote that has always stuck with me. It says, when you put yourself in exceptional situations, you get exceptional results. And so it is through putting myself through 75 hard that I became the type of person who was taking the consistent actions that I could have a really big, like, historic day in my business. And so it was exceptional situations create exceptional results. And so then that was something that happened literally a day after the challenge ended. And last thing, lesson number 7 is discipline is a perishable skill. So from the beginning of the challenge to the end, I felt like I had leveled up so much in terms of discipline and consistency and just following through. And I'm now recording this almost 3 weeks after the challenge. And I can honestly say that the discipline that I experienced through that challenge, like, my baseline has definitely increased. But in the 3 weeks after, today and yesterday, I'm not disciplined as I was during that challenge. And so I kind of feel like the discipline, even though it has, maybe my base has gone up, it is a perishable skill. So it kind of depletes itself. And so what that means is you need to consistently work on it. And it also means that this challenge isn't like a magic bullet. It's not like something is just gonna like completely change for you for the rest of your life. You need to continue to practice the skill. And that's why what I like to focus on instead of just discipline is actually lifestyle. What are the habits and the things that I can consistently do over decades? Because that's ultimately what is your lifestyle. So those are the 7 life-changing lessons from 75 Hard. I hope that was helpful. Let me recap them for you. Number one, boredom is part of the process. Number two, the voice inside your head determines everything. Number three, food is fuel. Number four, this will reveal your weaknesses. Number five, the work is the reward. Number six, exceptional situations, exceptional results. And number seven, discipline is a perishable skill. Let me know in the comments, or let me know by sending me a DM on Instagram which of these resonated the most with you. And so I definitely recommend this challenge for somebody who's looking to level up, somebody who's looking to push themselves and see what they're capable of. If you have any other questions, send me a DM or comment on this. Make sure you like and subscribe. Appreciate you. I'll see you all in the next one.